Texas just added a quarterback? Is there a controversy? Just kidding. I'll tell you why I love the move the Longhorns made over the weekend on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns added a player from the transfer portal over the weekend. That shouldn't come as much of a surprise. The Longhorns have now brought in 11 portalers this offseason, and they've used the portal a lot in recent years to bolster their roster. So bringing in somebody else shouldn't shock you at all, but the surprise comes from the position of this new addition. Texas went out and got a quarterback over the weekend. Troy transfer Matthew Caldwell is coming to Austin. He has 1 year of eligibility. He will be on this 2025 roster, and that is it. So some of y'all actually gotten a few comments on YouTube over the last few weeks wondering about the backup quarterback position. And some of y'all had wondered if Texas was going to try to go out and add a backup with some experience. We hadn't heard too much of that behind the scenes, but apparently Texas was in the market for a QB2, or at least somebody who could compete to be the backup quarterback here in 2025. And Matthew Caldwell comes with a decent amount of experience. He's played 23 games in his college career. He started as a walk-on at Jacksonville State. Then he transferred to Gardner-Webb, was there for a couple of years, transferred to Troy last offseason. He actually started the final 5 games of the year for the Troy Trojans, 1,608 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Also added 5 rushing touchdowns as well in the latter part of the season. So he's been around the block. Again, this is his 4th school in 5 years. He's going into his final year of college eligibility, but a guy who has started a number of games and a guy who has appeared in more than 20 games in his college football career. I love this pickup for Texas. No disrespect to Trey Owens, no disrespect to KJ Lacy. I think the future is very bright for both of them, but we just don't know really anything about those guys yet. I mean, we saw Trey Owens put on a show in the spring game last year, 14 of 21, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked great, and he impressed just about everybody who attended that game or watched it on TV last spring. But that was last spring in a spring game against a lot of backups. So we haven't seen Trey Owens play any meaningful snaps of college football. Obviously, KJ Lacy, an early enrollee freshman, just got to the university. So we know he was pretty highly touted as a recruit, but we don't know anything about him as a college football player. Obviously, this is a big step up in competition for Matthew Caldwell, going from the Fun Belt last year, and I don't even know what conference Gardner-Webb or Jacksonville State are in, but I know they're not the SEC. So, I don't know what he would do if given a lot of opportunities at Texas, but I like this pickup because it's an insurance policy. In life, we have insurance on the most important things in our lives. Hell, we have life insurance, we've got homeowners insurance, we've got car insurance, all of our most valuable things we insure. Quarterback is the most valuable position on a football team. Arch Manning is literally the most valuable person in college sports right now. So having an insurance policy just in case Arch gets hurt is a good thing. And you see this in the NFL a lot. Teams will invest a lot in their backup quarterbacks. And, nowadays in the era of the transfer portal, you have the luxury at a place like Texas to go out and get somebody like this who, knows he doesn't have an NFL future, but hey, he gets the chance to get a degree from the University of Texas and say that he played football at the University of Texas. Not too bad for a guy who started as a walk-on at Jacksonville State. So, look, Matthew Caldwell, he's going to have to earn it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that right now he is guaranteed to be the second stringer on the depth chart, right? I mean, Trey Owens has been here for a couple of springs. He knows the offense. He knows his teammates. He's got chemistry and rapport with the players, with the coaching staff. KJ Lacey was just here for the spring, so he's got a little bit of a leg up in terms of knowing the offense here at Texas. But I think Caldwell is going to compete to be the second string quarterback at Texas. Again, having an insurance policy on the most important player on the team is never a bad idea. More than 20 games under his belt. A guy who has some dual threat ability too. Again, 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 starts to end the 2024 season to go along with those 13 passing touchdowns. Can't imagine he's the type of athlete that Arch Manning is. But hey, 5 rushing touchdowns tells you that he can use his legs for something. So if we do need to see Matthew Caldwell, or if we just get to see him in mop-up duty in a game that Texas has in hand, maybe weeks 2 through 4 in non-conference play after the Ohio State game, then maybe Sark doesn't have to change up the offense too much and can call something pretty similar when Caldwell is out there. So now the quarterback room is 4 deep. You've got Arch Manning, you've got Trey Owens, you've got KJ Lacey, and of course, Matthew Caldwell coming in from Troy. And I think all of y'all and anybody who's ever kept up with Texas football knows just how rare it is for a Longhorn quarterback to start every game in a season. I mean, it feels like a minor miracle if Texas can keep a QB healthy. Obviously, we saw Quinn get hurt in each year of his Texas career. I mean, it's happened with a lot of Longhorn quarterbacks. The anomaly has been if somebody's able to start and finish every game in a single year. But that's not just a Texas problem, right? There were only 24 FBS teams out of 130 that had their starting quarterback start each of their team's games. Obviously, Texas was not one of those 24 games because Quinn Ewers got hurt and Arch had to start against Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi State last season. So, yeah, it's not just a Texas issue. It is a college football issue. Hell, it's just a football issue. But obviously now with college football seasons going longer and having more games than ever before, again, you want Arch Manning to stay healthy. You'd love for him to be your starter for all 14, 15, 16, 17 games that you play when we get to the fall, hopefully into the winter as well. But realistically, that's not going to be the case. So going out there and getting an insurance policy like Matthew Caldwell, I'm a big fan of this move. I don't think this will piss Trey Owens off. I don't think this will piss KJ Lacey off. I don't think anyone has to worry about those guys deciding to portal. The portal is closed right now too, which makes the timing of this even better. But again, Caldwell's a guy who's only going to be here for 1 season. So he's not going to take away any future opportunities from guys like Trey Owens and KJ Lacey. And again, I don't want to sit here and Sharpie Caldwell into the number 2 spot. He's going to have to go and earn it. But I feel a lot better about this quarterback room as a whole, knowing that you've got somebody who has played college football before versus just being a play away from Trey Owens having to make an impact on this team. And again, let's call a spade a spade. If Arch Manning gets hurt, season's probably over. I'll knock on wood as I say that. So you need Arch Manning to play the majority of these snaps for Texas this year. But again, long season, there's a chance that Arch has to miss maybe a quarter, maybe a half, maybe a game, making sure you have a guy who can help keep your SEC title and your college football playoff hopes alive. It's huge. I mean, look at Texas the last 2 years, right? In 2023, the Horns' final year in the Big 12, Quinn Ewers misses a couple of games. Malik Murphy has to start a couple of games. He wins both of them for Texas against K-State and BYU. If the Longhorns lose either of those games, they don't make it to Arlington. They don't win the Big 12 title. And obviously they don't make it to the college football playoff that season. Last year, now Texas had a little bit more margin of error with the expanded 12-team playoff, but still, I don't think you were going to lose to UL Monroe. You or me could be playing quarterback, and I think Texas would be fine. But first ever SEC game taking on Mississippi State. You needed Arch Manning to go out there and get you a win. So we've seen it the last couple of years here in Austin as Texas has gotten back to national relevancy and made it to back-to-back CFP semifinals. You need a backup quarterback to make sure that your hopes and dreams stay alive if something happens to QB1. So big fan of this move. I think it's a zero risk, and I don't know if the reward's super high, but again, I just feel a lot better that Texas has more experience now in that QB room. I mean, Arch is obviously your QB1. He's only started 2 games in his career. So maybe you can learn a thing or two from Matthew Caldwell, who has played a little bit more in college football. Like the move from Steve Sarkisian. A bit under the radar, not the sexiest transfer portal acquisition the Longhorns have made of the 11 that they brought in this offseason, but I like it. I think it's a move that could pay dividends when we get to the fall. And of course, you're already seeing, like, what does this mean from Arch Manning stories across the country? Anyone with a brain knows that, hey, you're just giving Arch Manning a backup with some skins on the wall. All right, we'll take your thoughts. Hit us up in the comments below and let me know what you think of this move. Matthew Caldwell coming to Austin from Troy. All right, let's shift gears here. We'll keep the Texas football conversation alive, but we'll take things to the NFL draft. We've got a little bit more draft cleanup to do. 12 Longhorns selected in the 7 rounds last weekend. 5 more signed as UDFAs. Which horns landed in the best situations? I'm going to give my top 4 best fits for the newest Longhorns in the league coming up next, right here on Locked on Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order your products online. Their website is super easy to use, and it is jam-packed with helpful resources and the latest product info so you can get the job done right. They've got a complete inventory of more than 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands. So you're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. So you're always going to talk to a real person. No machines, no AI, no bots, always real people. And for you trade pros out there looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And if you use the promo code SH5, you're going to get 5% off your first order. Again, supplyhouse.com for more info. All right, welcome back to Locked on Longhorns, your team every day. We will talk a little Texas baseball in the next segment, but first, a little more draft cleanup. We've had plenty of time to digest where the Longhorns ended up, and I've got my top 4 team fits or best fits for these Longhorns taking their talents to the NFL. I love some of the situations that these Texas players ended up in. Some I love more than others, but I think everybody's got a chance to make a roster, and I think just about everybody's got a chance to make an instant impact as a rookie, but we're only going with the top 4 for the sake of this segment. We'll start with number 4. Best fits for Texas draftees. How about Alfred Collins? Big number 95, going to the San Francisco 49ers. Collins was the 43rd overall pick in the 2nd round. Of course, Kyle Shanahan, the head coach in San Francisco. He's a lifetime Longhorn himself. I know San Francisco is coming off of a down year. They were just 6-11 in 2024. But 2 years ago, this team played for a Super Bowl. They made it to overtime before coming up short against Kansas City. Like, more often than not in the Kyle Shanahan era, the 49ers have been very competitive. And historically speaking, it is a great organization. And oh, by the way, the Niners' new defensive coordinator is their old defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, who is back by the Bay after his head coaching stint with the Jets. I know things didn't work too well with New York, but Robert Saleh is regarded as one of the best defensive minds in football. Hell, he got the gig with the Jets because he was such a good defensive coordinator. The 49ers actually made it to a Super Bowl with Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator. That was the Jimmy G year where they also lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But Saleh, a great defensive mind. You know, he had some say in this draft pick as well, which is pretty cool for Alfred Collins that he got the vote of confidence from, again, a great defensive mind, but a really good person for Alfred Collins to learn from. There's also plenty of talent around him. You've got Nick Bosa on that defensive line. The Niners' first-round pick this year was Mykel Williams, who, of course, we saw a couple of times at Georgia this past year. Fred Warner's a part of that defense as well. Like, that's a great fit for a guy in Alfred Collins who got better in each of his 4 years at Austin. I mean, he graded out as the 7th best interior defensive lineman in America this past year, according to Pro Football Focus. Finally got his opportunity to start, and he made the most of it, playing his way into the second round. Love the fit, great organization, great coaching, a team that will likely compete for a playoff spot this year, despite the disappointment from a season ago. I think it's a great fit for Alfred Collins. Number 3, Quinn Ewers. Look, we're all a bit disappointed and stunned, honestly, that Quinn fell to the 7th round. But if he was going to fall that far, you at least wanted him to end up in a good spot. I think Miami is about as good of a spot as Quinn Ewers could have asked for. I mean, going into the draft, if you're like, hey, rank the top 5 teams that you want Quinn Ewers to end up on, Miami would have been in my top 5. You've got an offensive-minded head coach in Mike McDaniel, who has some similarities with his offense to what Quinn Ewers ran under Steve Sarkisian these last 3 years. And you've got a quarterback room with some question marks. I mean, Tua is clearly the starter. He's clearly the best guy that they have, but we all know the injury history that he has. I mean, that guy just can't stay healthy for a half season, let alone a full season. And the new backup in Miami is Zach Wilson. Has Zach Wilson done anything to show you that he's a franchise quarterback? No. Has Zach Wilson done anything that makes you think that there's no chance that Quinn Ewers could overtake him on the depth chart? No. Like, Quinn obviously has to put in some work. Him being a 7th round kind of shows you that the NFL wasn't super high on him. But again, it's a great situation. The Dolphins have a lot of talent on the outside. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, Jonnu Smith. There's some weapons in that offense. So, look, there's no pressure for the first time in Quinn's career. He doesn't have any pressure on him. Pressure at Southlake, obviously pressure at Texas because of how highly regarded he was on the recruiting trail. And then he was the guy who took $1 million in NIL money before anybody else did, and this, that, and the other. There's no pressure on Quinn Ewers. He may never become the starter in Miami, but if he doesn't, it's not because he ended up in a bad spot. It's just because he's not good enough. This is as good of a situation as Quinn could have ended up in. I think he's a great fit. I think it's a great pick for the Dolphins, especially in the 7th round. All right, number 2, best team fits for the Texas draftees. Jahdae Barron going to the Denver Broncos with the 20th pick in the first round. I could have easily put Jahdae number 1 here. The Broncos are an up-and-coming team. They exceeded expectations last year, making the playoffs in year 1 of the Bo Nix era. He looks legit. Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach. Vance Joseph having the time of his life. Still a great defensive coordinator for the Broncos. They've got Jim Leonard on staff, too. Great defensive back at Wisconsin in his playing days, but also a great defensive mind and a great teacher of the secondary positions as well. Vance Joseph and Jim Leonard together, 2 great minds to learn from. And then, oh, by the way, you've got the reigning defensive player of the year at cornerback with Pat Surtain. So he's going to be going up against the number 1 receivers more often than not, which means Jahdae Barron doesn't have to be a number 1 guy. I think he'll probably be a slot corner, but we all know how good and how versatile Barron is. He just won the Thorpe Award playing more outside this past season at Texas. But yeah, he's got a great guy to learn from in Pat Surtain. He doesn't have to go up against number 1 receivers all the time because Surtain is there as well. So it's great coaching. It's an up-and-coming team. And again, you get to learn from Pat Surtain, the best corner in the game right now. That is about as perfect of a situation that Jahdae Barron could have asked for. It fell a little bit further than I think some thought, but man, worth it. The farther you fall, the further you fall, whatever the correct English is, the better it is on night 1 because you end up in a better situation with a better team. And that's the case with Barron falling to the Denver Broncos at pick 20. So love this for him. I thought Barron was going to be great wherever he ended up, but now I feel even better about that prediction. I think he's going to make an instant impact in the Mile High City. He's number 2. Last but not least, we get to number 1. As a Cowboys fan, this one pains me to say, but I think it's pretty obvious. Matthew Golden ending up in Green Bay. Look, ignore the fact that Golden got drafted by the hometown team on draft night and got to walk on stage in front of hundreds of thousands of Packer fans at Lambeau Field. Like, what an amazing moment for him and a pretty cool moment for Packers fans and Longhorn fans and Matthew Golden fans everywhere. That was special. But And then, ignore all that. The Packers, Jordan Love's really, really good quarterback. Matt LaFleur at head coach, great offensive mind. He runs an offense very similar to Steve Sarkisian. A lot of identical principles there. So Matthew Golden isn't going to have to learn a completely new offense as he takes his talents to the league. The Packers, a playoff team from last year, they're always in the mix in the NFC. They needed wide receiver help. Their leading receiver was a rookie last year, Jaden Reed, only 857 yards. So I think Golden, with a great year, could eclipse that number. But also, again, a rookie led the team in receiving in 2024. Maybe Golden can be the rookie who leads the team in receiving in 2025. He's going to get plenty of opportunity to play. He's a plug-and-play starter. He's going to compete for that number one spot with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. But yeah, great team, great organization that's always competitive, great head coach. I'm using the word great a lot because I believe it. I think Matthew Golden ending up in Green Bay was an awesome fit, is an awesome fit for him. And yeah, I think he's going to make some magic happen with the Cheeseheads in Lambeau. Would love to hear from y'all. Comment below with your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, which Longhorn do you think ended up in the best situation? Is there somebody I missed? Or do you agree with my list? Would love to hear from y'all. All right, one segment to go. Unfortunately, we have to do this. It was bound to happen eventually. For the first time in 2025, Texas baseball has lost a series. Unfortunately, the Horns didn't just lose a series. They got swept, and it was ugly. But there's a silver lining. I'll tell you the good news when we come back here on Locked On Longhorns. But before that, a word for our friends at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, your spending in one place so you can stop just managing your money, but start actually building your wealth, something we're all trying to do. And again, it's so easy. It's so convenient because it's just one app. You don't need 5, 6, 7. Oh, I use this. I buy stocks here. I invest here. This is my bank account. No, it's all in one place with Monarch Money. So you can check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances today with our friends at Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, the website, monarchmoney.com, the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. You're going to get half off your first year from our friends at Monarch Money. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. It was a rough weekend for the Texas Longhorns in Fayetteville. You didn't want it to happen, but it was bound to happen eventually. The Longhorns finally lose a series in 2025. They lose their first ever SEC series. And boy, it was a rough one in Fayetteville. Texas gets swept by Arkansas, and none of the games were that close. We talked about the 9-0 series opening shutout on Friday's show because that game happened on Thursday. Things didn't get much better over the weekend. Texas lost 6-1 on Friday night. They lose 13-8. They were more competitive. They had a couple of leads in that Saturday matinee finale. But, the Texas pitching staff just couldn't get the job done, giving up 5 home runs to the Hogs. And, it was about as bad of a weekend as possible for Texas. Ton of mistakes in Friday's game. You had errors, you had walks, you had hit batters, you had an unfathomable base running blunder where 2 guys, not just one, 2 Longhorns forgot how many outs there were in an inning. 1 out, easy pop fly. Instead of running back to first and second, you had Gasparino and Borba just take off and run thinking there were 2 outs. And it was the easiest double play in college baseball history. Jim Schlossnagle was pissed. He actually pulled both of those players after that incident. So that was bad. Saturday, again, Texas showed some signs of life early. They were up 3-0. They got the bats going a little bit, but the pitching staff gave up 5 home runs. They also gave up 10 walks in Saturday's game, too. How about, do my math here, 22 walks and 9 hit batters for the Texas pitching staff in these 3 games in Fayetteville. The pitching was horrible. The offense scored 1 run total in the first 2 games of this series. You had errors in the field. You had mental breakdowns. You had base running blunders. It was Texas's biggest road test of the year, and they failed it. It's the first test they failed really all season long. They were the number 1 team in the country for a reason, And they didn't look like the number one team in the country at all. They looked overwhelmed. They looked flustered. They looked overmatched. Any negative adjective you could use describes the way Texas baseball played at Baum Walker. So that's the bad, right? That's the bad. Not a lot of silver linings with what you saw on the field. But the good news is Texas is still in first place in the SEC, and Texas still controls its own destiny to win the SEC. The Horns' magic number is 5. Now, it was 5 going into the weekend, and your 5-game lead for first place is now down to 2 because, of course, Arkansas is in second place, so they made up 3 games of ground on you, which is not ideal at all. But again, Texas still controls its own destiny. If the Longhorns go 5-1 in their final 6 SEC games, then it doesn't matter what Arkansas does. Arkansas could go 6-0, and Texas will have won the SEC outright, plain and simple. So Texas has Florida at home this weekend. They've got Oklahoma in Norman to wrap things up next weekend. If Texas goes 5-1, again, the Hawks can't do anything to overtake the deficit. Obviously, if Texas does worse than that, then they're going to need Arkansas to lose a couple of games. Here's the other good news. Arkansas's final 2 series of the regular season at LSU, home Tennessee, 2 of the best teams in the country. So Texas has a 2-game lead, and they've got the easier final 2 weeks of the season. So you'd much rather be in Texas's shoes than Arkansas's shoes right now. And any Longhorn fan would have signed up for this scenario at the start of the year. Are you kidding me? A 2-game lead with 2 weeks to go in the SEC? Like, it's the dream scenario for Texas. So again, you wanted it to be, obviously, if you swept Arkansas, it would have been 8 over them. They would have been mathematically eliminated. You would have loved a series win. If you could have found 1 win there, you'd still be up 4 games in the conference. None of that happened. But again, nobody should be pressing the panic button. Texas still in a great spot. And if the Horns take care of business and win the SEC, they are going to be a top 8 national seed, regardless of what happens in Hoover at the SEC tournament, which means Texas won't have to play in a road environment like that, really any road environment in the postseason. That's what you want. That's what every team wants. You want to be a top 8 national seed, so your road to Omaha runs through your ballpark. Unless Texas completely collapses, I think they're in a good spot. Hell, in D1 Baseball's poll, Texas is still the number 1 team in the country. A lot of people out there aren't thrilled with that. I am. I'm fine with it. Texas has done enough to where I think they're still in that conversation, and D1 Baseball still has them at the top. So even though you got swept, first place in the SEC, the number 1 team in the country in maybe the most major poll that exists, the Longhorns are fine, but you can't let a bad weekend beat you twice. You got to bounce back against Lamar tomorrow, the final midweek game of the year. And then again, this series against Florida at home, where you've been dominant all season long. You gotta find a way to bounce back and take 2 of 3 and look like the team that you've looked like for the vast majority of this 2025 campaign. So no need to panic, but don't like losing to anybody. Really don't like getting swept by anybody. Really, really don't like getting swept by Arkansas. But again, Texas in a very favorable position. Now it's all about how they respond. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. If you've made it this far, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and rate 5 stars. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, so you can be the most informed fan on all of the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll preview the Texas Lamar baseball game tomorrow. We'll talk plenty of Texas football, and you never know what else will pop up because there's never a dull moment on the 40 acres. As always, appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.